So why bother wasting time farming those dungeons? Let all those foot soldiers and bots do that. You're better than that. Just take your kids' college fund and get rid of that milk money and dump it into beautiful, beautiful Solent for those wonderful, wonderful gains. Amidst everything that you're doing, there's a lot of goals that you may have, and a lot of them could be driven by Lucent. Some of you may already know how to make your Lucent. However, some of you still may be looking for some tips and tricks on how to efficiently work towards that Lucent. In this video, I'm going to be giving some tips and tricks on ways that I like to farm my Lucent and how I maximize my usage on the marketplace in hopes that maybe this helps you. Now, do bear in mind, I may not cover everything, and if you guys have additional tips and tricks to help those in need, please feel free to put them down in the comments section below. And if this video is or was helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Let's get into it. Now, there are many things that you're going to be using Lucent for. You could be using Lucent to buy potential lithographs to craft. You could be using Lucent to unlock your traits that you need to maximize your gear. You could be using Lucent for maybe an alternative set of gear that maybe you're also working on. This is one that I'm currently working on. But ultimately, we need to maximize the profits that we're making in order to be able to do these types of things. Now, obviously, as we know, top right-hand side, you have your abyssal contract tokens, you have your dimensional contract tokens, and you have your contracts that you can run either in your inventory or through the vendor. 3 different ways that you're able to obtain items in game to sell on the marketplace. I personally like to pop buffs when I'm also going and burning things like my tokens to yield more rewards to sell on the marketplace. Running buffs is going to be essential if you want to truly min-max the potential of what you can earn. 10%, 15%, even 20% can yield a very big return over a long portion of time. But again, luck is luck, RNG is RNG. But once getting lucky, you may find yourself obtaining items of a grade that you question if it's worth selling. But one thing that I like to do is simply just look up the item on the marketplace. And I encourage you to do the same. There's 2 ways we can go about doing this. One, since we had the Staff of the Umbromancer, let's go ahead and look that up. So we have the Staff of the Umbromancer. As is sellable, it's 2,500 Lucent. Mine is not sellable as is, but the lithograph sells for about 472 Lucent. So this might be a worthwhile item to turn into a lithograph and sell as is. Checking out the trait that is on the item, mine has undead bonus damage. So clearly turning this into a trait is not going to be worthwhile. Clearly, I would benefit a lot more off of selling this to a lithograph. The other thing you have to take into consideration are the materials used for crafting this staff. So let me go show you what I mean. So here we are at a weapon vendor. Talking to him, he's able to turn items into lithographs. Looking at the blank lithograph page, I can get the parchments. I have lots of enchanted ink. I have lots of mana steel, polished crystal, but I don't have precious rubrics. Rubrics is actually relatively expensive on my server. When I look at the value of how much rubrics itself sells for, you can buy this off the marketplace. We look it up. It sells for about 20 each, so I need 10 of them. When I do the math, 10 of them is going to cost me 200 Lucent, plus that 50 enchanted ink, which only you can get so much of. So when I go back to the Staff of the Umbromancer, we'll look this up once more. So now taking away 200 guaranteed from this, I'm at 272 plus marketplace tax. So we're getting ourselves down to about 230 for the successful lithographing of this item to sell onto the marketplace. I myself, if I'm going to try to turn a profit on any of these lithographs, I try to at least make sure if it's a purple grade, I'm at least getting about 300 minimum Lucent in return. So obviously, since I'm at a bit of a deficit from that number, I wouldn't be looking to turn this into a lithograph. Instead, maybe what I'll look to do, since it doesn't have a good trait and it doesn't have a good enough return for what I'm looking for, maybe instead I'll just put this into my lithograph book. Obviously, the Artist's Void Staff is not a good trade-off for 20 trait unlock stones. Maybe we'll see a better use for putting this into the lithograph book in the future, but as of now, I can either prep this by dumping this in as is, I can turn this into a lithograph and sell this, which I'm not going to. So for now, it's kind of just a paperweight. I can either melt this down if I want to for even some magic dust. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to turn it into the book because it doesn't have the things that I want and need for it. Now, again, this is just how I do this. If 200 Lucent sounds good to you, by all means, go do it. The reason why I'm not is because enchanted ink is such a valuable resource. You come by it only so much through the weekly shop for the abyssal coins, as well as the ornate coin shop. And once that's sold out, you're waiting on your weekly or monthly limits from these shops. When we talk about the traits, again, we can go down to a blue grade item. So this one, for example, having mana regen. So one, we have the golem grinding greatsword. This could potentially be an item that people look to put into a lithograph. How do we know? Well, we go to the auction house for one, go to your lithograph book for two. I believe I've already turned mine in, but if we go to the marketplace, type in golem, here's the golem greatsword. We'll see if we can find the lithograph page. Usually for blue lithographs, I try to get about like 70-ish per blue, 60 to 70-ish I find is a good range. But a lot of blue lithographs you can actually sell for quite a lot more depending on what it is, belts, rings, and accessories especially. Or if the item is more sought after for turning into the lithograph book, because the way it is obtained could only be through potentially a dungeon, a world boss, or something specific that you're doing that not many people are, which increases the rarity of it. You'll notice that with these golem items, it actually is listed for the most amongst all of them. So for this one, we have to see, okay, lithograph seems like it's good to sell. Let's go look up mana regen. I know exactly what this is going to cost, but for the sake of the video, we'll look up the mana regen trait on a weapon, and it's selling for 10 lucent each, and it's min listed. So we look at the volume of it, it's just 10 lucent down the board. So this likely probably will not sell. So let's go back to golem. Let's go back to the lithograph. This one's selling for 83 at min, 84, 85. So this one might be more worthwhile to turn into a blank lithograph page. So once again, talking to the weapon merchant, I'm able to craft a blue lithograph for the weapon. But again, I need to make sure that these resources I have, because rubrics is a bit of a harder one to come by sometimes, but luck is luck. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double check, look at the marketplace to see if I'm making an okay decision. Rubrics, they sell for about 3 each. Okay, so if I buy 10, it's worth 30. I go back to the golem sword, take a look at this, cuts it down to about 50-ish, little below what I want to be selling it for, but I'm not buying the rubrics this time. I have it. So for the sake of this video, this one's a bit of a debatable one for me and my preference. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to craft this blank lithograph page. Let's go open our inventory. Turn this into a lithograph, select that item. It consumes 1 page plus 90,000 solent. We go ahead and lithograph that. Here is the lithograph. So now if I want, I can turn this back into the same item, or like what we're doing, we go and sell. So I'm going to sell this for 82 lucent. We'll sit that there. And now there that is. Now we just wait for that to sell. But lithographs and trade extractions will be your #1 form of making lucent. Going to the auction house here. So far on my account, I've managed to sell about 13,000 worth of lucent. And if you look at the dollar value of this, for my currency, 6,000 lucent is about 150 Canadian dollars. So knowing how to be efficient with these and where to be efficient with these is going to help you a lot. Extracting traits is very, very inexpensive. Making the lithograph pages becomes more expensive. So you do need to be a little bit more strategic when you're making those lithograph pages. But when you're extracting traits, it's going to be less expensive because the stones are much easier to come by. You'll notice that as I'm selling certain things, extracting certain traits, I am trying to get a certain value out of the things that I am selling. Obviously, the traits, I'm more willing to take a bigger cut, especially if they're blue grade because it's inexpensive. If it's purple, I try to stick around like 50 or above, depending on what it is. I think 50 is actually a little low. I think it should be a little higher, but it really depends on what it is. And sometimes you can even get lucky with selling things like this and being able to turn that into a lithograph page and turn around a pretty decent profit. But RNG is RNG, luck is luck. So when you get these things, these are 2 really important things you need to look at. You need to look at the trait value, the volume of it, because if it's min listed, it may not sell. And then look to see if the lithograph also might be worth crafting for a potential bigger return. But when you're making those lithograph pages, again, make sure you're looking at the resources you are consuming to make sure that you're not actually hindering yourself and potentially even losing profits based on what you might be making. You want to try to get the most out of what you're doing because over time you will yield bigger returns. And of course, the most efficient route of getting Lucent, the number one, is getting this really awesome passive ability on your skill bar right over here. It's called passive income. That's right. And just by equipping that, you too can click on the shop icon at the top right hand side and go all the way down to the bottom and buy these beautiful packs for delicious dollary dues. So why bother wasting time farming those dungeons? Let all those foot soldiers and bots do that. You're better than that. That's right. Just take your kids' college fund and get rid of that milk money and dump it into beautiful, beautiful Solent for those wonderful, wonderful gains. Because we all know that with more money comes more Lucent, and with more Lucent comes more respect. And you look like you're about to be respected. All jokes aside, thank you very much for joining me in this video. If it was helpful, please be sure to give it a like. If you guys want to check out more content from myself, got lots of guides and content on Throne as well, and definitely consider subscribing. It does help as well. If I did miss anything in this video, please be sure to put it down in the comments section below for your tips and tricks and suggestions. Hopefully this can become a little bit more of a helpful thread, as well as a video for people who are looking to make more Lucent on their journey, especially free to play as well. So shout out to you guys who are crushing it in that department. But as far as that goes, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.